Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is H.L. Ackerman. I have a degree in publishing and I am working on writing my debut novel. This summer, I decided to set a challenge for myself where I would write an entire book manuscript before my birthday in November. I started this challenge in April, had 30 weeks to do it. I just finished week 17. I'm just here to give you an update on how that's going. I am definitely one of those who has to work around my family schedule. So this is just how I'm writing this book right now. 30 weeks, 3,000 words per week, with a goal to hit 90K by November. Let's talk about week 17. So I'm someone who has always struggled with daily word count goals. I wanted to write 500 words a day. I'm a notorious streak breaker. I started with this manuscript, approaching it from the idea that I didn't want to keep a perfect streak, but I wanted to maintain imperfect consistency. The smallest unit of measurement that I've found that I could keep reasonable progress on, week by week, word counts. Another motivation tool that I have really found to be super helpful is writing in Scrivener instead of Microsoft Word or Google Docs. With Scrivener, I don't have to worry about it scraping my work for AI purposes, and they have an amazing word count tracking function specifically for novelists that really helps me out. I've already got it open on my manuscript, but I'm going to switch over to the writing history and just take a look at what I managed to write last week. Okay, so just from looking at my writing history right off the bat, my month is actually looking really good so far. Today's August 12th, and out of the 12 days of August so far, I've managed to sit down and write for 7 of those. I've missed 5 days, and yet there is an imperfect consistency because I'm already at 4,838 words for the month. Very happy with that progress, and I'm hoping to have another 3,000 word week. That slow, steady, imperfect consistency is what's really helping me to write this book so much faster than my previous manuscript. Let's total up our words for the week. Last week, August 3rd, 220. August 4th, 987. August 5th, 261. Nothing on August 6th. Imperfect consistency. August 7th, 2,038. August 8th, 1,122, and August 9th, 260. I'm actually so happy because I managed to write 6 out of the 7 days last week. I think that's the most consistent I've been this entire challenge, and the real challenge, of course, is not to hit a perfect 3,000 every week, but to establish a writing habit that I can carry as a lifetime author. After counting up all of the words that I wrote last week, we have a grand total of 4,888. That just feels so good. It feels so good knowing that I'm making progress, that I was an overachiever last week by 1,800 words, and I'm not going to allow that to be an excuse for me to slack off this week. I'm still trying to hit 3,000. There's a surprise coming up at the end of September that we have been planning for 9 or 10 months or so. I really need to write ahead for those days when I'm not writing at all. Wait, pause, he needs a cracker. There you go. My little director is helping me today. Weeks 14 and 15, I was not able to surpass 2,000 words, which was really hard. We were moving, we had my in-laws out to visit, and there was just a lot going on, and it was a good reminder that sometimes life really does just get so busy that you don't have time for your regular habits. It's also a great reminder to reinforce this discipline and this commitment to this imperfect consistency so that you can come back and write stronger than ever. We are now in the new house, we're completely settled. I have my workspace again, which is so great. And the week after we moved, I was able to write 5,694 words, which is almost double my goal. And then this week we added another 4,888. Now it's Tuesday, August 12th. I haven't written at all this week, so of course my goal is to reach 3,000. I've flown past the midpoint and I am now working on the last half of chapter 23. I love writing the last half of a book. The first half is so much a setup and an introductory period where your reader is getting to know your character, their world, the culture. After the midpoint, everything shifts and becomes really high stakes. And now all of a sudden, things that were maybe coincidental have suddenly become very consequential. That is one of my favorite shifts in fiction. Things that you weren't expecting. I love thinking about the butterfly effect of things. I love writing the high stakes tension and danger. The first draft is always going to be rough. I'm in the middle of writing a combat scene and I am not good at writing combat scenes. I'm going to make my husband read it, and he's always a really good critic for the combat scenes. He has helped me write a Viking raid and an ambush scene and the recruitment of an entire army before. Like, he's just fantastic for these kinds of things, and so he's a really great resource for that. So I'm just gonna work on getting it down. That's what the first draft is for. Get as close to a rough idea of what I want, and then I can always go back in and add. If you don't have the words, then you can't edit them, and you'll never know how good they can be. My manuscript is currently sitting at 56,603 words out of my 90,000 word goal, which means I'm over 60% of the way done. I'm well past the midpoint, and I'm into all of those pinch points and the bad guys closing in, all of these really exciting scenes that are just ramping up to this finale and this climactic scene. Very, very excited. Very happy with how it's going, and I think that I've paced myself pretty well. I still think the first half of my book is kind of overwritten, but I think that I can get some really good developmental edits in once this draft is complete, and I can cut it down so that it's close to 90 to 95,000 words. That's what I'm shooting for. That's what I'm hoping for. So we'll see how that turns out. But as of right now, we're at 56,603. Now, in case you couldn't tell, 2025 has been my year of nailing down the first part of what I would consider my ideal publishing timeline. I needed to figure out how to draft in a timely manner so that I could manage future drafts, ideally with having a book deal and a deadline that I can work towards without having to cram an entire book in 1 week, because I'm not that kind of writer. In order to develop those habits, I needed to prove to myself that I could write a draft faster. My previous manuscript took me 2 years to write. Granted, it was 120,000 words long. I was building a whole new culture, a whole new continent. There were 10 different groups of people all intermingling. It was based on the legend of Atlantis, and it had a lot of Viking, Icelandic, and Scottish/Celtic influences. There was so much to research, there was so much culture to interweave that it just became a huge project. It kind of makes sense that it took me a full 2 years to write that book, but at the same time, I wanted to be able to write faster so that I can someday be publishing 1 book a year. That's my goal. 2025 has been all about nailing down how fast I can realistically write a manuscript without getting burnt out, while maintaining the momentum and the inspiration and the excitement for a story, and following through on all of my ideas for it. The drafting of this book is going to take me roughly 30 weeks, from April to November of 2025. Then I will be taking a 2-week break at the beginning of November to celebrate my birthday and step back from the draft. Then I will come back for revisions, which I plan to spend 6 weeks doing. The first 2 weeks of revisions will be a broad bird's eye view of my manuscript. I'll be going through and creating a retroactive outline using the grid system of my current story. I will be highlighting areas that need to be rewritten or condensed, making notes on characters, setting, plot points, plot holes, the whole deal. Then for the last 4 weeks of December 2025, I will be implementing all of these revisions, tightening up my story, trying to cut down on that word count and get it between 90 to 95K so that it is ready for beta readers at the beginning of the new year. I have this all written out, okay? It's my whole plan. 2026 will be focused on nailing the revision process and the querying and pitching process. So I will be actively looking for an agent to represent this novel that I'm writing right now, and I will be starting on my next novel. In January, I will be sending out this manuscript to alpha readers and outlining my next book. In February, I will be focusing on revisions for this manuscript based on my alpha feedback. In March, I will be preparing to query, so I will be building my query package. I will be researching agents who might be interested in this book, writing my pitch, practicing my pitch, writing my query, putting together marketing materials, all of these things to prepare for sharing this manuscript with the world. Then in April, we start drafting again. I'm giving myself another 30 weeks to hit another 90K. November revisions, December revisions. Start the new year 2027 with alpha readers for that manuscript. In my mind, that's everything that is within my power to control and help me have the best chance of getting offered representation by a literary agent. Now, there are pieces of the publishing process, and especially if you're going for trad publishing and querying, that you just don't have control over as an author. Agents wanting to read part or all of your manuscript. choosing to represent you, going out on sub with an agent, and then eventually selling a book to publishers, ideally in an auction setting. That is the ideal, but it doesn't always happen, and so you have to be willing to be flexible, and you have to be willing to change plans last minute. My focus and priority as an author, with the intent to be a lifelong career author, putting out one book a year, is to master the draft, master the revisions, and get really good at meeting deadlines or being ahead of them. By the end of 2026, I will have 2 polished book manuscripts. I will have the first one out on queries, and hopefully I will be signing with an agent at some point that year. That would be the dream. 2027, I would love to land a book deal. This is where it gets to be more of the fantasizing wish list of Hannah. But in 2027, I will be following this same month-to-month schedule. January, alpha readers and outlining my next book. In February, revisions from alpha readers. March, I will be prepping my query and pitching. In April, I will be drafting, and the drafting will go through October. Then in November, I'll have my 2-week break, and I will do 6 weeks of revisions through to the end of the year. While I'm drafting my next book, I will be querying and sending out queries for my previously completed manuscript. If I sign with an agent next year, I'm hoping that 2027 or 2028 will be the release of this manuscript I'm currently writing chapter 23 of. Dada, I have no toys in here. Okay, I found an orange dinosaur. I've always been interested in how people approach the publishing timeline because it is so variable, and there are certain pieces that we just do not have control over as writers. It's a very complicated process, but I believe that it is possible, and I'm taking it upon myself now to nail down my timeline so that when I'm working with an agent and a publisher, I already know that I can depend on myself to finish a manuscript. Accountability and consistency gets you pretty far. Baby giggles. You need something to eat. Nice. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and drop a like, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to be more consistent about sharing updates with you about my writing process. It's getting easier. It is getting easier. I'm trying to experiment with this thing in perfect consistency, and it is working. As always, I wish you the best of luck in your writing. I hope to see you again in the next one.